Well, hello everybody. Good to see you. Most of you will know who I am, and I think most of you will know who these folks are, although they normally worship down at our RCC campus down on Gill Street. But this is Dr. Craig and Rene Brannan. So let's welcome them. Now, many of you will know that one of our major mission initiatives this year is supporting Craig and Rene as they head over to South Africa. Now, the original plan was for them, or the hope or the aspiration was for them to leave on January 1st. And I don't know what the exact date is today, but I know it's not January 1st. It's January something else. And so maybe the first question we'll ask is, we understand there's been a bit of a delay in the process. Walk us through that. Oh, are you on? There we go.
Well, good morning, everybody. Yes, one of the things that we had wanted to do throughout our married life is at some point to adopt. Yeah. And so we believe that taking care of our Jerusalem, to the other parts of the earth is critical, but taking care of our Jerusalem is important. We believe that to adopt babies would be something critical in our walk at some point. Mm-hmm. And so we were blessed on the 23rd of March 2017 to have little Elizabeth come into our life. And so we have been in the process of foster to adopt. Up to this point. It should have happened actually last year, June, and it would have been finished around about November, but a couple of circumstances, including one, our own worker got really sick, and then she was in hospital, and then also we had delayed in the ministry with some paperwork, not on our side, but on mom's side, so we've had it stalled for a while. Yeah. Good news is that we will, Lord willing, have adoption probation from end of February till hopefully April. That's what we're hoping. And then we can then go ahead, cut a long story short, by June, we're hoping to leave by June or July. Because we'll have to go to court, and then we have to take to go to the South African consulate and get an emergency visa as well.
Right on.
Yeah. So other than that, nothing's happening.
Very smooth, very smooth. Well, obviously, God's never late, and so it'll be right on time. Now, right, in terms of you folks, you might be wondering, well, how does this affect us? It doesn't. We made a commitment as a church that we're going to support Craig and Rene for 5 years on the ground, in terms of 100% of their on-the-ground support, and that was to start this January, and it has. We're basically taking, I think it's. You can talk to the finance guys, Brother Clyde or Josh, or I think they're both here. I saw it this morning, so you can talk to them. But I think what we're basically doing is taking $8,000 every month and sticking it into an account. So the only difference for you will be when you say goodbye and when you say hello again. But there's no difference. We're still engaged in our fundraising. So if you have committed this year, as we all did, to tighten our belts and give so that we could do this, we're still doing that. We're putting the money away, so it'll be there for them when they go. Now, you and I are going at the end of February and into March. Explain to the folks what we're going to be doing. Explain to me what we're doing.
Well, we're going to put you in a loincloth and send you through Africa.
Good. I think that will do wonders for the gospel. Yeah.
Thanks for the visual.
Repent, or this will happen to you. Good.
Yeah, so I've been going, actually this will be my 11th visit.
Yeah.
So we'll be going, and what we do for 2 weeks solid. So we will teach for a week. Mm-hmm. You're teaching the book of Matthew, I'll be teaching on the Holy Spirit, and then we'll be fellowshipping and training and doing some coaching with the African pastors. There'll be 12 in my group, there'll be probably 9 in yours, but then we'll still eat together and fellowship together. Then the next week we're actually going to go visit the pastors. We're going to visit the orphan projects. There's 3 major ones we're looking at, and then one, I Learned to Live. It's from these young people from 18 really to 29, and so we'll be visiting them as well. So a lot of on the ground, what's going on, so you're aware and you can better represent what's going on the ground, and it's going to be very intensive. Gary's been, several other men have come, and they know.
Yeah.
So it'll be intensive, but it'll be really worth it.
I'm in training right now.
Yes.
Okay. Well, you mentioned the Orphan Project. You mentioned training the pastors. I know those are the 2 big blocks of your project. So maybe give it to us in a couple of sentences. What's this project about? How does it all fit together?
Well, in a sentence, it's really equipping African pastors so that they will equip orphaned and vulnerable children to young adults, if you were to look at it in a sentence. And that involves the theological training. That also involves those disciplined, self-sustaining stewardship. So these Africans are being taught. So we're building 3 churches right now, physically, and we are having them do self-sustaining strategies of farming God's way, chickens and eggs, jaggery, which is kind of like a sugar cane. It's also African honeybees. So we're trying to get resources where these African men and women, they will actually take the time to farm and show that these orphans, you can actually do this. It's not a handout anymore. It's a hand up to use your hands that you will then go and minister to someone else. And I think that's key, that these kids learn even up to young adults. And then we're writing 19 books and guidebooks to help counsel the pastors to counsel these orphans. Many of them have trauma. Many of them have had incredible abuse done to them. And so we're equipping them so that they stop that in their generation as well. And so we're going to be in the rural areas. We're not in the city. We're actually out in the rural areas, which has actually been neglected for many, many years now. But there's over 6,000 orphans spread around there. And so we're reaching them.
And maybe it would be helpful, because as you hear that, maybe you're wondering, well, where are all their parents? This is a province that in Africa that has been particularly hard hit by the AIDS epidemic.
Yes.
And so, in essence, what we're trying to do is equip churches to meet an unprecedented social need.
That's right.
There's been a catastrophic social occurrence. And so it can't just be church as usual. You can't just hand out flyers and say, come for the sing-song and the message. There's like a nuclear bomb has gone off in the society there. And churches need help to respond with the gospel in appropriate ways. Is that basically it?
Exactly. Because what happened is that the parents actually died of HIV/AIDS. So these children will wake up 6 years old, 7 years old, and they will actually raise their parents who are dying, take care of them, and then they would die. And so then these orphans have been on their own. And so you'll have 3 to 4 in a hut or in a shack out in the rural areas, and there's no one to take care of them. So what we're doing is we're starting churches in these areas. And we actually have a daycare starting. Actually, we've been kind of a pilot project last year. We have one of the churches actually starting, has 20 little ones registered. And so we're going to be raising money for projects like that. So because you're taking care of us, I can now, through the Association of Baptists for World Evangelism, who we're going through, we can raise up projects so people can give to these projects and then get a start up. But then we want it to be revenue intensive in terms of itself. So some of the Africans will give, and then eventually we'll cut off all giving from the outside because we want it to be self-sustaining. That's critical, that it's self-sustaining. And as I've said to them, we are not the great white hope going through. Coming to them. We're coming there to come under, to equip, to train, and then to leave. So we'll have a very good base. As I said, we've been going 5.5 years now. So this is not just new. We're going in, and we're now building full-time, whereas before we would come in and then leave, come in and then leave.
Yeah, we love the missiology behind this project. As Craig said, this is not a case of people from over here trying to do this for them. But this is what you can do. As an established, mature Western church. What can you do? What should you do? Train up churches in developing areas to do the work of God for themselves and their communities. The goal is not for Craig and Rene to move back to South Africa and live there forever. They're coming back in 5 years. By the way, we need them to come back in 5 years. We're trying to figure out how we're going to deal with them being gone for 5 years. But the goal is to equip the church there to serve their communities during this crisis. And so that's the role that's appropriate for us to play. Training, equipping, launching, cheering on, resourcing, and then celebrating. So that's the process. Now, I understand that even though the church has agreed to fund sort of 5 years of this project of you on the ground, you are also fundraising on the side for some special projects, although that will come later, and then outfit and passage, which is basically like a launch fund. Yeah. If people here have excess capacity, if they can give even more than what they're giving through us to this project, how would they do that?
Well, they could get hold of ABWE Canada, and
Yeah.
we will make sure it's available in bulletins, etc. And you send a check to that with the check has to be made out to ABWE Canada, but then notes that it's for Rene Craig's launching or outfit and passage. That's what it's called, outfit and passage. Now, what that is, that's so we can take a container. That's to pay for some vehicles when we get there. That's the ability to set up an office there, because we're not allowed to take from the country. We need to give to the country, so we have to have our own funds to set things up.
Yeah.
And that's a separate account altogether.
Right on. Thank you. Thanks for sharing all of that.
Thank you.
I understand Pastor Evan's going to come. He's going to do the pastoral prayer, but pray for you. So why don't you stay up here for that, and Pastor Evan will pray for us.